So, my dear friends, I have a very strong message to all of you, and the message is very simple. I want each of us to be attentive. We need to learn to see the things the way it is rather than the way it is shown to us. I think we have stepped into that particular society where we are responsible for our own development or destruction. I think we cannot hold anyone responsible for this, even our politicians. And therefore, we need to be a little bit aware about this reality. If we don't, then I think we are going to lose and miss something very important in our life. Let me tell you the context in which I am trying to say and suggest you this. First of all, let me tell you that this video is going to deal with one important research. As I told you that this series is going to be dealing with number of researches which I have just completed in one book called Caste, written by M.N. Srinivas. So this is the second research, and this research is really important, and I think each of us should know about it, because this will open up our eyes, and I think it will bring reality to us, and I think it will also open up our senses. It will teach us how we should understand the things happening around us. Otherwise, what is happening that we are just becoming a storage, a house of storing informations, news, and there is no proper validations of all these news and informations. I think this book, this research is going to at least remove this very fault, and I think it will make us even more improved version. So to be able to fight against the illiteracy, to fight against the inappropriateness of the government, right, or the hypocrisy of the government. Let me start this video. First of all, before I start, let me tell you what this research is all about. Let me tell you the one who did this research. The name of this person is M.N. Panini, and the research is all about political economy of the caste. I talked a lot about the caste and it's being a factor of India's degeneration. But today I'm not going to curse caste system anymore, because after reading this research I concluded something else. This developed a fresh understanding about how should I see my society, right? So therefore, I think we must understand from that point of view also. My last request and urge to use that, this is just my personal explanations, which means I will try to add my opinion to this, and I will leave this to you to understand the way you want, okay? But I will suggest, please, when you read things, you have to keep your biases aside. Be neutral, because neutrality is the only way through which we can have purified knowledge, which is good for the society, right, which is good for one's understanding, one's knowledge, right? So let's begin this research. The name, the research is Political Economy of the Caste. We all know what the politics is all about in India. It's a common event, and economy is also part and parcel of the politics, right? Now for this, I want to take you back to 1947, the day when we got independence. Many of us know that the condition of the country before 1947 was very poor, abysmal, because there was pervasive inequalities, disparities in all sections, in all domains, undoubtedly. It is also said that almost 1 to 2% of the populations, total populations, concentrated wealth, power, anything. Now leaving the 98% aside, having nothing in their hands. So what becomes the first priority of the constitution's maker? Probably the one, and that is to improve the conditions of this 98% of the population. In fact, if you remember what Austin Grenville said in one of his book called The Indian Constitution, that Indian Constitution is not just a constitution but also a social document. What is the social document? Let me tell you, social document means that a constitution deals with social issues a lot. India's constitution is one of those constitutions which is mostly dealing with the social issues. We have number of articles which reflect the social concern. Article 15, Article 14, Article 17, Article 21. Many of these, in Article 39, B, C, talking about concentration of wealth and everything, we see that there is a reflection of the concern of social problems. which one thing clears is this, that yes, our constitutions maker knew about this reality, and they were I think working together to remove this. And that is the most fascinating thing about making of the Indian constitution. But did we really get it? This is really important, and the answer to this question we get from this book called Caste, and specifically from the research number 2nd, Political Economy of the Caste. So by this time we have understood the purpose of the constitution makers. Secondly, we understood the condition of the country. After 1950, after we had our constitution in our hands, what became the most imperative task for all the politicians sitting in the highest position is to improve and uplift the conditions of the marginalized section and the people living under scarcities, right? So what they did, they tried to bring up number of policy. For example, reservation is one of those policies. We must be thankful to Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar for making this introduction of reservation into our constitution. Now, people criticize Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar for this reason, but trust me, this step is really important. And this step is important even for all section of people, including general caste people. And by the end of this video, this book and the research will reveal this, how it is going to be important for everyone. It is not going to be discriminating against anyone on any ground, trust me. And this is the beauty of this research, and this is based on data, by the way. So I recommend you for. So coming back to the point, what I was trying to say, that yes, India was obviously living with this number of problems, and there was a realization about this problem among those sitting in the positions, right? Reservation, as I told you, is one of those program. Now what happened thereafter, that one thing which people really didn't notice is that who was sitting in the top positions were almost falling in one community, which means most of them having a close connections. Remember that if you want your country to improve faster, you want that the creativity must be the part and parcel of your institutions, then you need to ensure that there must be diversities in those institutions, which means people from all sections must take part in the process and must try to regulate things, and only then it ensures this development. This is the story of America, this is the story of China. You can take any country's name which you call today a developed country, all of these countries having this diversified working cultures in their highest institutions except India, and therefore we need to learn this thing from these countries. Now coming back to the core point which I was trying to make, that what happened when the responsibility was thrusted on the shoulders of these people, the unfortunate thing which happened to this is that most of them were holding a close relationship coming from one section, one caste. Remember, I'm not blaming caste here. What I'm blaming is the culture of the working profession, the culture of the department or the institutions where it was required diversified culture, but we lack in completely, right? So what happened, that when these number of people had this responsibility, at the same time they had economy in their hands and they were harnessing it in their own way. Earlier it was observed, and that yes, they were having that intention that they really wanted to bring some important changes in the society, and therefore they introduced this reservations and tried to employ people from SC ST communities, and it happened to a certain extent. But did this happen the way it should have been? No, absolutely no. Instead of it, what happened, which is even more unfortunate, and I think this is one of the most strongest reasons for current failure, that people who held this power in their hands, they misused this power. They misused that wealth, the money of the nation, where they wanted and where they needed to use it for the rightful purposes. They used to concentrate it in their own personal hands, which means they were trying to accumulate wealth through their own people. They were appointing people from their own caste, from their own communities, instead of appointing from other castes, from other communities. The book and the research deals with it very extensively. Says that the word socialist policy, however, deals with the very true or a very clean intention that it will bring some strong or some instant changes in a society. But in India, it failed to do so because the intention of the people, those who were sitting in the highest positions, were not good, and therefore they misused every resources. They had immediate access, and they had this access to translate it into the benefits of the lower section. Instead of doing it, they brought benefits to their own people, and therefore this inequalities increase in thereafter. Even today in 2026, if you compare this inequalities, you don't find a big change in this. I mean, 1947, the condition was obviously poor, undoubtedly. People were almost segregated on the basis of their caste as well as on the basis of their economy. But one thing which is still common today, that yes, still only 2 to 3% of the total population held immense wealth in their hands, leaving 70% still having nothing in their hands. This is the reality. Now imagine, and just leaving it to you to understand, India's constitutions, though being called as the constitution, social document, we had the socialist policies, we had number of articles, still we fail to achieve this very target, the objective. Why? Probably because the intentions of those people who were responsible for this, I think, were not right, and they actually played hypocrisy with everyone. And for this reason, I think we are still facing the same thing. So one thing which is proved here is that it is not just because of our constitution has some weaknesses, but because people who held power on the constitutions, called the wielding force, I think had not that intention to really bring out those benefits for the needed section. And therefore the research says is that it is the only reason that why India is still a state of inequalities, why we don't have still this equal treatment or the behavior, what you can say, right? Now coming back to the next point, which is equally important, and I think this is a core teaching of the book or the research which the author wants us to observe and imbibe and practically experience it. And this is about stopping this very caste politics, not caste politics, but to understand things from the caste perspective. The author is very clear on this point that it's okay to be talking about caste as an instrument which really led us to this degeneration of the society, but not all the time you can hold caste responsible for this. Probably because after independence and after having the constitution, we understand that with the help of the socialist policies, many people obviously got appointments, those who were not legal candidates, and just because of they had their people in connection sitting in the highest positions taking their benefits, they got appointed. But at the same time, this number of this people is still less. So what we can say by implication, that not all upper caste people got benefits of it. There is still a large section of upper caste people who are equally poor and equally facing the same problems at the OBC and the ST people are facing. And therefore this is a high time for all these people to come together and fight against this concentration of wealth policy. India is basically working on a system where few people run the system and try to ensure that the wealth should be concentrated in few hands. We have the example of politics based on dynasties. It is one of those biggest factor. The classic example. We have the businesses too. I think we have to understand it, and I think this research deals it very clearly, right? So we should not criticize caste all the time. However, caste is basically thrusted in this very political discussion in order to create a kind of chaos in the society, so that the root cause of the problem should be avoided. Because people who were sitting at the top, they don't want that the wealth to be shared with all the peoples, right? And for this they can ensure anything possible that they can do, and therefore they create a division on the basis of caste and religion. And this is I think what I found the most interesting part of the discussions. Right now, what do we see after this is that every section of people is facing this issue of this maltreatment from this system called a democratic system. And this is not discriminatory, which means it is causing suffering to each section of people, irrespective of the caste and the religion. But remember, the beneficiary is always the one, and that is the one who is sitting at the top. So, may it be OBC, SC, or upper caste, all of them are facing the same problem. And I think this must be used as a single ground on which people must come together and fight against this kind of corrupt system. Right, for example, we have EW as reservation for upper caste. The next question comes in, do these upper caste people take the benefit of this EWS? Probably not the way they should, because even in the last 4 years what we have seen in different examinations, that those upper caste peoples got wealth enough in their hands, positions enough, they actually misuse this power and misuse this EWS, try to do it just to gain little favor. We have had great number of some people like this. In this way we can say they are eating the chances of their fellow partners coming from the same upper caste with low economic background. The same thing is happening with OBC as well as SC and ST people. Then who is actually taking the benefit is nothing but the one who has really power in their hands. He may be of any caste, any religion. But remember, one thing is common among all is that the wealth is being concentrated, which means the wealth is revolving around there in their kins. They are only the one beneficiaries of it. And this is a brutal reality. Unfortunately, we don't understand it. We still think the government works for the concerns of the poor people, of the large people, but it's not. I tell you one example, the book also reveals about it. The Mandal Commission was set up in 1992. The purpose was that to bring about section of OBC into a mainstream forces, working force, right? But did it really happen? No, because the benefits are still being enjoyed by powerful people. We really don't know how things are happening at that level, at the higher level. Things are completely inaccessible to us. We cannot find the reality, but the thing is happening in this way. So therefore I say, I think it's the right time to bring Marxist ideology in our approach. I really don't know why do we hate Marxist ideology. In fact, Marxist ideology is one of the most realistic ideology. People really don't accept it, but it really makes sense. Marxist ideology is entirely based on the power of economy. Marxist holds this view that everything which you find around you is directly impacted by economy, wealth, money. Even if it is religion, even if it is any cultural process or any custom, anything. In today's century, this is directly affected by economy, which means it's economy which is always at the center of discussion, and around it revolves everything. And therefore we must try to correlate this ideology of the Marxists with the system of India's democratic system, which means is that you can call it caste, you can call it religion, but ultimately the fighting is only for power, to secure wealth, to concentrate wealth. So when a leader comes out to address to the large section of people talking about religion and its moral and the ethics values, you don't know that the hidden purpose of all this is only the money, the wealth. The time when we know this, we realize that how our politicians playing with our emotions and sentiments. This book also deals with this issue, which is very important. So in the last, I will sum up in my own way that I think we need to go beyond this very caste conflict and try to see the reality, scanning things, and for this we need to make efforts neutralizing our mindset so that we could honestly accept the things what's happening, and accepting the fact that when anything is transacted right from the higher level, and it is seen as it is for the poor people, then I think it's a time to be little bit suspicious about it. Until you raise your doubt on this, I think you are not going to challenge, you are not going to get your share as a part of the society, because you are also the citizens of this country, and your constitution gives you equal right, your fundamental rights, and right to life with dignity, and right to life with good health. It includes everything, understand? So this is what I wanted to share with you. This research done by M.N. Panini, Political Economy of Caste, which is really important. I am trying to just share this very gist or the summary of it. The research is really vast and it covers up number of points, and it has dimensions which will open up your senses and will help you to see the things from new and fresh perspective, which is I think needed at this point of time to bring new change or reformation in society, which is really important. This is what I wanted to share with you. Till then, take care. Bye.